I'm Eric Loy, and welcome to Eric Loy Interviews. On this podcast, we talk with folks from the VTuber community on their channels, their talents, their stories, where they come from, and their plans for the future. We say hi to Moon. Hi, Moon.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Appreciate you coming on the show. Please introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. I am Moon. We are a VTuber who just started earlier this year. And we were able to hit affiliate, and yeah, it's been really fun, kind of meeting everyone and getting deeper into the VTuber space and kind of building the community there.
So you got affiliate real quick, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a lot of help. My one of my roommates actually streams too. And she's been streaming a bit longer than me.
Yeah.
So she already has sort of a community, so we kind of mixed ours a little bit, and she helped me kind of get that push there.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, they still got to want to do it.
Yeah, it still definitely takes the work and the effort to get there.
So how's that feel being knowing that folks want to be there with you during your streams enough to already get you to affiliate?
It's actually kind of crazy. We actually tried streaming before, kind of off and on,
Hmm.
but we're never able to make much headway. Partially, it was because of our rig. We didn't really get a PC that could handle streaming truly until this year. Um, but beyond that, it's really just kind of mind blowing. Like people will just show up to hear me barely talk and listen to music and play video games that I may or may not be good at. It's kind of just been crazy, and sometimes we get a bunch of viewers, sometimes we get a bunch of chatters, sometimes we don't get either, and it's just kind of me and my best friends in a room playing a game, and it's still very fun.
That's cool. That's great. That's a great way to look at it because really it's just like any other type of entertainment. I call it an industry because it's it is an industry when you look on the macro side of things. But people are coming back not just because of what you're doing, but because of you. Um, so these people want to make you a part of their day, and that's got to be fulfilling there.
Yeah. Because really we've always wanted to be an entertainer of sorts, whether that's making music, whether that's singing, whether that's making art, whether that's, starting a community for, niche reasons.
Hmm.
Entertainment is one of the fields that we've been inspired by and also have been chasing the longest.
Oh,
Um, so to see even, a modicum of that come to fruition is insane.
well, and when you look at it even bigger, the fact that this is available to do this is pretty amazing in itself. Um, to an old fellow like myself, talking with people around the world like this would have cost so much money back when I first started in radio in the '80s, for crying out loud. Um, and it would have sounded terrible. It would have sounded like yelling into a tin can, and it would just been. It really would have been just an awful experience. Um, but now to be able to just kind of generally just chat with folks and have more than a few folks around the world tune in to see what you're doing. That's pretty mind blowing for an old fella.
Yeah. Like even as early as kind of video games were for us, we were born in the 90s, and back then you had what, the PS2, the Xbox, and they were
Hmm.
just coming out. So, back then you had to everybody you wanted to play with had to be on your couch and next to you,
That's
or
right.
else, they weren't getting in.
That's right.
Um, but like to your point, the fact that you can play a game with people halfway across the world, or people, in a country miles and miles and miles and days worth of a journey away from you, can kind of just come and hang and talk, or even want to come and hang and watch you play or watch you talk or watch, whatever it is that you're doing. They're there to watch you. And that is just, again, like it's insane.
So you talked about wanting to be kind of an entertainer all the way through your life, kind of. You've always wanted to have that audience?
Um It hasn't necessarily always been about the audience.
Hmm.
It's always more so been about what the audience is there for, right?
Ah, okay.
So when we first figured out that we wanted to be an entertainer, it was all about music. Now, mind you, it still very much is because music is a large part of our daily life and how we kind of move through the world.
Hmm.
Um, but it in the beginning, it was more about this is this really cool thing that I like and I want to share it with people. But as we've gotten older, it's become I'm really kind of focused on building a community
Hmm.
um, that that primarily is a safe space for me and people like me, but also is a space where niche interests can be enjoyed, where entertainment can happen. Whether it's from me or from anybody else in the community, but the fact that most in my community are there for me is fantastic, and it means that I get to work out that entertainment a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and still, still continue to work on it and improve and find other things that you want to do. You folks, some folks say you get to be yourself more because you have the avatar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely agree. The avatar makes it 10 times easier, and the fact that there are artists who are willing and able to put out, because so my model isn't a custom model. It's a model I've bought off of Etsy and kind of edited myself.
Right?
So the fact that there are artists who take the time to create not only models that are custom per person, but ones that can be used by a larger audience so that more people can break into VTubing the way that they want to is something that I really didn't expect to happen.
Mm.
When I first started seeing VTubing kind of taking off, I was like, oh, that's something that's going to take forever to get into, and maybe
Yeah.
thousands of dollars to get a model, thousands of
Right.
dollars to get the rig set up, and I'm going to have to upgrade my PC to make it one of the top class in order to get it to run, and that's what we found is that's not the case.
Mm.
It costs a little money, it costs a little effort to get it started and get it set up the way you want to, but outside of that, the rest of it is really just having fun creating a model that your community can connect to, and
Mm.
I think that's one of the coolest parts for us.
And that's a different way than I've heard a lot of people talk about the model being. And a lot of folks say that the model is kind of the shield between themselves and the audience. Kind of takes away a little bit of what might be shyness or embarrassment or that sort of thing. But I think you might be the first to talk about the model being a connection to the chat and the audience. That's an interesting way to put it. I I think that's really actually perfect way to put it. It really does. If you have I'm just speaking in general and myself, if I as an audience, if I see somebody and the model just doesn't really click with me or doesn't go with who the person is, and I'm like, well, I still might enjoy it, but you're taking away that little bit of connection that you might have.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Certain people will, pop into your stream just because they like the look of your model,
Mm,
or, they like how, you have the overlay on your stream set up.
yeah.
And while I do agree most certainly that, the model can assuredly be a shield between the creator and their audience to give the creator, a little confidence boost, a little, I don't have to have people looking directly at me. They're looking at this character I made, which can provide you, a certain feeling of safety and secureness. So that's definitely true there.
Mm,
But like I said, I think that there is I think it's the same it's two different sides of the same coin, right? So on one
yeah.
hand you have it can be used as kind of a middleman to get between, you and your audience. That way you have sort of a rail guard
Mm,
in my opinion is what it kind of feels like, a rail guard to kind of keep you from having to be the pure interaction with the chat, whereas you can make your character
mm,
that you can. I've seen VTubers where they're truly playing their character, like their character has lore, their character has not necessarily a different personality from the original user, but they
right.
might be a mostly different person, and so that user is essentially acting.
Right.
And so that model is helping them to kind of achieve that. So, like I said, I think it's really just two sides of the same coin. Either, one, it can be sort of a shield to protect you, get a little confidence boost, make it easier to stream, or it can be, more of a connecting device and one where, you build, you not necessarily build your character around the lore, but your community is very into the lore of the character. They're very
Right.
into the background of your model.
Yeah. 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 And it's still a very fascinating subject for me, even after all these interviews, to hear everybody's different take on it, because there's a slightly different or very different reason everybody does certain things to become a VTuber, and how they handle the avatar model, and get it and use it. So why specifically did you decide to be a VTuber?
Yeah, I originally was just a regular FaceTuber,
Hmm.
but even when I was doing it back then, VTubing was kind of the goal.
Mm.
Um, for a couple different reasons. Number one, having a VTuber means that I don't have to focus on making sure that I am physically ready to stream every time that I have to. Because then that's it's the whole process in itself. You get off work, you then in the shower so your hair and your body feels good, and so that you feel good, so that you can stream, and then you want to make sure that like your makeup is good, and
Yeah.
that your lipstick is good, and your hair is good.
Yeah.
Whereas I can come out of a 6 hour nap in my pajamas and just stream and use my VTuber. Um, so it's become sort of a easier way to get me to stream because then I don't have to worry about all of the extra stuff. I can just hop on and my VTuber is ready at all times.
Hmm.
Um, but also, to me, there is something much more fun for my VTubing experience to be able to create a character that has their own lore that is part of the reason people come back or part of the reason people may pop into my stream in general.
Right.
Um, I don't know if I'll say I want to be an actor, but I definitely enjoy playing the character of my model for, my audience.
Well, you can go ahead and say it. I mean, if you usually, all these years doing radio and this now, it's like I don't want to say it, but it usually means I do want to say it. You're not getting away that easy. No, it's obvious that you're from what you're saying, and how you're enjoying it so far, that you do enjoy the performance aspect of it. Uh, so how early did you realize that you wanted to be a performer?
Uh, ooh, that would have been back in childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I think originally it started with just wanting to make music. We had like our own gigantic acoustic guitar that was like two times the size of our body, and we could not play correctly. Um, and even though that was the case, we would like still try to play it, walking around the house trying to learn the songs that we liked, and we would try to mimic. It's so embarrassing. I remember at that time our favorite movie was Mission Impossible 2 with Tom Cruise.
Oh,
And we spent a lot of time like mimicking how he acted in the movie, like his script, his body language, how he interacted with the other characters.
yeah.
We spent a lot of time kind of memorizing and mimicking those. And I think that's really when we first kind of understood that I think the entertainment industry is where we want to be. We just have to figure out how we want to exist there.
So was a young Moon doing all the stunts by themselves?
Quite a few stunts we definitely should not have been doing.
Moon crash.
It was more like me and my stepbrother would be jumping off of our beds doing tricks, and you know, suddenly one of us may have hit our head on the ground because we forgot to jump. But that's neither here nor there.
That is simply a what if scenario, and didn't actually happen.
Exactly, exactly. You understand.
Well, I mean, you talk about wanting to do music and art as well. So what did you do as far as music goes, and where are you? Are you a musician, singer, or both?
Not near a professional singer in any way. Do we sing a lot? Absolutely.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't say it's professional by any means.
Yeah.
Um, as for music itself, we're currently learning guitar. We actually did learn a good bit back in high school, but years without practice will stale your abilities.
Yeah. Yeah.
So right now it's kind of like we're just starting from the beginning all over again.
Mm. Yeah. It's one of those things uh, that you kind of know a little bit about what you're doing, but just enough to be dangerous.
Yep, exactly. I know just enough to make a sound, but is that sound musically inclined and exactly what we want to hear? Most
Yeah.
of the time, no.
Well, what about singing? I mean, did I mean, a lot of people will sing at home and sing in the car and sing in the shower, but singing for other people takes a little bit extra courage that I don't have.
We truly don't have much of it either, but unfortunately for us, singing is such a STEM because we're on the autism spectrum. So
Mm,
we have a lot of different STEMs that we do,
uh-huh.
and singing is definitely, if not the main one, it is in like the top three that we do. So
Mm,
we are not purposefully, putting on a performance for everyone else in our house when we sing,
yeah.
but we sing all the time.
Mm, yeah. Well, the spectrum is something that I don't understand a whole lot of. And when you say a STEM, is that some type of therapy, or is it something that can you explain that a little bit for me?
Yeah, so in at least in terms of autism and ADHD and neurodivergencies,
Hmm.
a STEM is really just something that like is a repetitive action of sorts, right?
Mm,
So, for example, our roommate has a lot of different STEMs, but one that I had, it can really kind of come from everything.
yeah.
But a lot of ours are musically inclined.
Ah,
So, one that recently we got her on, there's a song, and it's like I think it's an AI compilation of like SpongeBob, Patrick, Mr. Krabs, and Plankton from SpongeBob SquarePants all
yeah.
like in the song together. And at one part, it's they're talking about Gary, and it's just so that has been my best friend's stem lately.
That sounds really
Uh,
unhinged.
yeah. Imagine just being in the house, and you might have a cat, but all of a sudden you hear a very human. But yeah, a stem is essentially just it doesn't always have to help us regulate, but for the most part, it is something that like it sometimes we do consciously, sometimes unconsciously that regulates either
Yeah,
our body, our emotions, something like.
kind of like an anchor.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I can understand that, and I appreciate that. Thanks for letting me know about that. Because when I do sing little bits repetitively, it's just to irritate my wife. Um, I know, and there's lots of things I can do to do that. I mean, but sometimes it's more fun, especially if it's a song that she hates.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but then she also plays a Big Bang Theory 24 hours a day, so she gets me.
Oh, oh, that sounds like my ex-wife.
Yeah, it's if I hear the phrase "We built the pyramids" one more time, I'm going to take them down by myself. And
Wait, is she also obsessed with The Office?
no, 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 no.
Oh, you got lucky there.
No, strangely enough, it was How I Met Your Mother, and
Huh.
and then the Andy Griffith Show.
Huh.
Yeah, now I can't stand people who whistle.
I do understand
Yeah.
why.
If I see somebody whistling, I might swerve my car at them as I'm driving. Don't throw that rock, you little kid. uh, but seriously, it's how does that how does being on the spectrum, do you think, um, affect how you present on stream, or does it at all?
Yeah, it definitely does. Because there are more times than I can count where in the middle of stream, either one of two things will happen. Either one, um, we will randomly go nonverbal, so it becomes much harder for us to talk. The want to talk is almost fully gone.
Hmm.
Um, so and then words become really, really hard. So it becomes difficult to kind of engage with the stream outside of chat.
Right.
But as you're playing a game, that's damn near impossible to do.
Yeah.
If it's not that, it then becomes that like suddenly I have to stem, but it's a very specific stem because our true main stem is sucking our finger.
Uh,
So there's a lot of times during stream where that stem will start to feel like it for lack of a better way to put it, it feels like it is so uh like it just has to happen sometimes.
right. Right.
But I know that's because at like if when that starts to happen, it's because I need to regulate because my emotions are either starting to fall in the whack or just because my body needs that stimulation.
Wow.
Um, but like I said, trying to play a controller or even worse a keyboard game with one hand is not very fun or
Yeah.
possible really.
Yeah. I've tried to do that.
Um,
It's not good.
yeah, no, not at all.
And then,
So sometimes it can almost interrupt streaming in a way.
yeah. Yeah. I imagine it can disrupt things. When you are streaming, what type of games are you playing?
A variety, really. Sometimes we play stealth games.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes we play racing games. Lately, it's been more comp games like Overwatch 2 and this new game that just came out called Supervive, where it's essentially like Fortnite and Smite had a baby,
Oh.
which is really, really fun.
So is it a scenario type of thing where you're dropped in and are you with a team? How does it work?
Yeah, so essentially, there's a couple different modes. You can either play duos or you can play squad. Squad is four, duos is two.
Uh-huh.
And what essentially happens is there are, I think, maybe 15 teams if you're playing duos.
Okay.
Um, and each team essentially has to kill everyone else and survive while the map that you are on, um, essentially the area that you can be in and not be harmed, shrinks.
Mm,
So you are essentially in an area on the map that is surrounded by a gigantic ring. The longer the match goes on, the more the ring closes, and anything outside of that ring is being consistently damaged, and you can't be healed if you're in it.
uh,
Um, so it is essentially trying to stay inside that ring the whole time while also fighting other teams, to try to survive until the end.
mm. So there are a couple. So when you have the larger teams, the 4 team model, how many teams are in there?
I want to say there's like hmm,
15 would be a
I'm actually
lot.
not sure. Yeah, it's definitely not 15 teams when you're playing in squads. I want to say it's probably closer to maybe 8 or 10, but I
Yeah,
actually can't say for sure.
10's still a lot. I mean, that's
Yeah,
you
that's still like 40 players.
have one of those where it'd be like a very small building and you have 90 people in it and you have to survive and the building keeps getting smaller as you go.
Yep, yep. And sometimes when you initially land, you land right next to other teams, so you are
Oh,
immediately in a fight the moment you drop into the map.
yeah, you have people snipe you right away. That would be so frustrating. Oh, 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 oh.
Yeah, unfortunately, I am one of the snipers.
Oh, you. I'm pointing at
Yeah,
you through the microphone. You.
yeah, snipers. I like bow and arrows. They're my favorites.
Oh, that's even nastier. Is it
Yeah.
bow and arrow or crossbow?
Ooh. Okay. So if it's dual crossbows, that's fine. But if it's
Mm,
just a single crossbow, I would prefer a bow and arrow.
yeah. It seems to be a little bit stronger, um, more of an impact if it's a regular bow and arrow. The crossbow is awful fast though when you really can.
It's definitely fast. To me, a crossbow is more so meant for maybe like medium to pretty close distance because
Mm.
you can only move so quickly as an arrow that was shot from a gun is coming towards you.
Have you ever seen somebody
Um,
try to load an actual crossbow?
no, no, and I think that sounds horrible. I don't even want to think about like the weight tension of that line and trying to
Oh,
pull it back.
I see people do it who actually know how to do it, and it takes forever. I like, why would
Yeah.
you ever use this? And
No, I could have notched a bow in my regular bow and arrow by the time you got this set.
I could have picked up a rock and hit you with it in that period of time. No, no, wait, I'm still trying to get this. No, I'm hitting you with a rock. I'm not waiting for you.
No, I'm not waiting for you.
Here, take this. It's pumice. The interaction with the chat sounds like you don't have much problem with that. And was it something that you were able to take to right away?
Um, yeah. Interacting in the chat is more my speed because all I do is text people. So texting via the chat, where the chat has all of this kind of interesting interaction where you can use the Twitch channel points, where you can use commands, where you can set up little games.
Yeah.
So having kind of the freedom to kind of customize how that chat works has been really really cool.
Mm.
So far, we've tried to implement, I think, casino. We had a heist mode that worked for a bit. I think we have like a blackjack mode or something like that. And then more recently, we put in the little Pokemon game.
Right.
So kind of the different things that you can do with the chat are really, really fun, and they make interacting with the chat a lot easier because it's not just sometimes both the VTuber and the chat being silent. Sometimes you will have where I'm talking, but the chat isn't really moving, or there's no Pokemon showing up, or there's no real activities, or other times you'll have it where the chat is having a lot of interaction, and that means that I don't have to have as much vocal interaction.
Right. Well, you can concentrate more on the game or whatever you're doing, art or whatever, on the stream.
Yeah.
Are you doing art streams?
No, I I love art, and part of me does love doing art, but I am still stuck in uh the zone of the art that I make to me is still bad, so it's
Mm.
hard to want to make art.
So you are an artist.
Yeah, I consider myself an artist.
Yeah, you're not going to be satisfied no matter what you do.
Nope, never,
That's
not once.
rule one. You're not done.
No. Rule. That is the primary rule of being an artist, and really kind of in any medium, is that you just have to accept the fact that you are 9 times out of 10 always going to want to either change something about it or make it a little different,
Mm,
or there's always going to be something that you think that you can change to make it better
yeah,
eventually.
yeah. I mean, has that carried over into the other things you do on stream? I mean, have you done something? I really should do that again. I didn't 100% that level. I should go back and do that.
Yeah, definitely. We've done that with like certain games we play. Overwatch is the main catalyst of that.
Mm,
We really didn't play Overwatch much before both our roommate got us into it and then we started streaming.
mm,
Um, because the reason for that is Overwatch is to us one of the simpler games to play on stream, but it's also one of the simpler games to get people to interact with on stream. Because a
right.
lot of people watch you play Overwatch.
Oh
A
yeah.
lot of people know kind of the ins and outs of Overwatch. So at least in terms of getting kind of interaction while you're streaming and playing the game, Overwatch has been one of the biggest kind of pushes for that we've kind of this.
Yeah. They also know when you screw up.
Yeah, yes they do, and they are gonna let you know. Yes, they are.
Yes, they will. Not only did you do this wrong, but you should feel bad about doing it
Yeah. Overwatch people are real quick to be like, hey, just so you know,
wrong.
that was a dumb decision.
I hate you. Do it again. That
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah, literally. I hate you, and do it again, but do it better this time.
That's right. I'm not naming my children after you anymore. The it sounds like you're so comfortable with this now. Did you think you were going to be that comfortable when you got started, or was it easy for you to turn on the microphone and settle in?
Um, when we were still doing regular face tubing, it was a lot harder, but that's because, especially back then, it was very, very difficult for us to number one, not focus on the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
but then also not, always focus on how do we look in camera. Are we in position? Are we looking good? Are we, constantly making a face because we're focusing and then not saying anything in chat?
That's right.
Um, but then once we switched over to, VTubing and got our model set up and got our overlay set up, it really became more of, well, I don't have to think about that. Like it's not even a thought anymore. It's quite literally, okay, I want to stream or I have to stream. Sit down at my computer, load up everything,
Yeah.
start,
It's like riding a
and we're
bike.
good to go. And we're off to the races.
Kind of like riding a bike. You know,
Yep.
if you ride a bike every day and you don't even start thinking about it anymore, you just go up and ride the bike. That's good in a good way. And some people get that in a bad way and get into bad habits. But
Ah, yeah.
it sounds like to me that you're enjoying yourself extremely at this point.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely still hard to not always focus on the numbers because obviously you want people in your stream, you want people interacting with you. That way, you aren't just talking to yourself the whole time, and you're not just talking to in your Discord the whole time.
Right.
But I don't know. To me, VTubing and using a model for that kind of medium to get between me and the audience has made everything about streaming just 10 times easier. There's so much I no longer have to worry about, and I can really just focus on interacting with my chat, interacting with my community, playing the game the way that I want to play it,
Mm-hmm.
and no longer focusing on all of these little tiny extraneous details.
Mm. Now, stay with me here a little bit because I'm gonna throw a hypothesis out to you. With the model, I'm seeing where the audience gets a chance to uh, familiarize themselves and get to think they know think of you as a part of their lives, a friend, or at least a companion, that type of thing every day, and that they're companions of that model. But you, on the other hand, as the talent, get to have that let them have that experience without it actually being you. And,
Yeah, it's in a way it's kind of what we've always wanted because there are so many different versions of ourselves that we want to share with people. There are so many different kind of things and people we want to be.
mm,
And the model is truly like the gateway and the medium through all of that because I don't have to it while there is effort and work that has to go into either changing the model so that I can change her look to whatever I may want it to be or using a different model entirely.
mm-hmm,
I can do that,
mm-hmm,
and it's no longer this arduous process. And then on top of that, I can quite literally always be exactly who and what I want to be with the model.
mm-hmm,
I can be a little fox who
mm-hmm.
has nine tails if I want to. I can be a humanoid who has tails and a tail and ears if I want to.
Right.
Um, so the model truly just is like I said, it almost feels like a gate that leads to an infinite number of dimensions.
Mm,
But all of those dimensions just contain either, a different version of us or maybe a specific character or a specific role that we want to play. Um, and like I said, it's so good because I don't have to worry about either trying to physically change anything or physically get myself ready. It essentially takes my physicality out of it and allows me to more so embody the model, which is exactly what I wanted when I got into streaming. Because I knew I didn't really want to be a flesh tuber at that point.
mm,
It was not what I wanted because I wanted to be able to create a character or multiple characters that I could interact through.
mm. That's a great explanation. That's a perfect explanation for that, and I'm gonna put an asterisk by this so I can use it for things later. I must steal it from you. That's what us media people do. We steal things and then put it down as our own. Um, I really appreciate you coming on. Have you got any big plans coming up for the channel here soon?
Um, the closest things so far are getting a custom model
Uh huh.
and then getting a custom overlay, but those are still pretty far in the future. Right now, we're
Hmm.
just focused on building up the community, getting more consistent with streaming, and getting more people to kind of see and come and hang out with us.
Well, I think that's going to happen. We're going to have all the links to everything we've been able to find for you on the description for the interview, and check out what Moon's got going on. It sounds like you got things going pretty well, and you just listening to Moon, you can hear in the voice uh, how much this means to you, and how much fun you're having with it, and that's always the biggest thing. Is if you're having fun with it, you're enjoying it. It's a positive part of your life, and it sounds like it is all of that for you.
Yeah, definitely, and it's brought me a lot of positive people and positive relationships too. And those are the other kind of areas I love about streaming is you get to meet people and you get to kind of introduce yourself to people you may not have met otherwise, and they can become like a really big part of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you becoming a part of ours here. That's been great to talk with you. And again, I love meeting people this way. I'm glad I've been able to meet you this way too.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. We're really glad to hop on.
And we'll do it again here sometime soon. Check out what Moon's got going on. Moon, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Eric Loy Interviews. Join us again next time when we talk to another member of the always interesting VTuber community.